The day my family disowned me, my father looked me straight in the eyes and said 6 words I would never forget. "You'll never amount to anything." My mother didn't defend me. My older brother laughed. My sister told me I was embarrassing the family. Then my father put a cardboard box on the porch. Inside were my childhood photographs, my high school diploma, a few pieces of clothing, and the cheap watch my grandfather had given me before he died. "Take your stuff," Dad said. "You're 30 years old. It's time you stop pretending you're part of this family." I stood there in the cold, staring at the people I had spent my entire life trying to make proud. I wanted to beg. I wanted to scream. Instead, I picked up the box. Then my father said the cruelest thing of all. "Don't come back until you've become someone worth being proud of." I looked at him, and for the first time in my life, I didn't argue. I simply said, "Okay." What my family didn't know was that 6 years later, I would walk into their workplace wearing a tailored suit. I wouldn't be there to apply for a job. I wouldn't be there to ask for forgiveness. I wouldn't even be there as an employee. I would be there as the new owner of the company they had spent their entire lives working for. And when my father saw me standing beside the CEO, he whispered, "Emily?" I smiled. "Good morning, Dad." His face went completely white. But that wasn't even the most shocking part, because I hadn't bought the company to punish my family. I bought it because the company was about to collapse, and I was the only person who knew how to save it. And before the day was over, my family would finally discover what worthless really meant. My name is Emily Parker. I grew up in Columbus, Ohio, in a family where success was measured in titles, salaries, and appearances. My father, Richard Parker, was a senior executive at a manufacturing company called Harrison Industrial. My mother, Diane, worked in the company's human resources department. My older brother, Jason, was the golden child. He was confident, athletic, popular. He knew exactly what he wanted. And my parents constantly reminded me that I should be more like him. My younger sister, Lauren, was the pretty one. She was outgoing, fashionable, and socially gifted. Then there was me. I was quiet. I liked numbers. I liked computers. I liked taking broken things apart just to understand how they worked. As a child, I once dismantled our old toaster. My mother screamed when she saw the pieces spread across the kitchen table. My father shook his head. "Emily, you need to stop wasting your time on nonsense." I asked, "What if I can fix it?" "You're not fixing anything." He threw the toaster away. I never forgot that. Not because of the toaster, because even as a child I learned something about my father. He didn't value curiosity. He valued results, and he had already decided that I wouldn't produce any. When Jason played football, Dad was in the stands. When Lauren performed in school plays, Mom brought flowers. When I won a regional science competition, my parents barely mentioned it. Dad asked, "Does this help you get into a good college?" I said, "Maybe." He nodded. "Then make sure it does." I learned not to expect praise, so I stopped asking for it. After high school, Jason attended Ohio State. Lauren went to a private college. I attended a smaller university on a scholarship. I studied business analytics and supply chain management. My father wasn't impressed. "That's not a real career," he told me. "What is a real career?" "Something stable. Like yours?" He smiled. "Exactly." I didn't argue. I graduated near the top of my class. I applied for jobs all over the country. Most companies rejected me. Then a small logistics firm hired me as a junior data analyst. The salary wasn't impressive. The office was tiny, but I loved it. For the first time, I had found something I was good at. I could look at thousands of numbers and see patterns other people missed. I could identify waste, predict supply problems, reduce shipping costs, find inefficiencies. My manager noticed. After 6 months, he asked me to analyze a struggling division. I found a problem that had been costing the company nearly $400,000 a year. We fixed it. My manager gave me a raise. I called my father. "Dad, I got promoted." He said, "That's nice. I also got a raise." "How much?" I told him. There was silence. Then he laughed. "That's what you're excited about?" I felt my smile disappear. "Yeah. You need to think bigger." I looked at the ceiling. I am. No, you're not. He hung up. That conversation stayed with me. Not because he was right. Because I realized I had been chasing approval from someone who would never give it. Still, I kept trying. For years. I worked 60-hour weeks. I took night classes. I learned programming. I studied artificial intelligence. I learned how large manufacturing companies managed supply chains. Eventually, I joined a consulting firm. That was where everything changed. My new company specialized in helping manufacturers reduce operational costs. One of our biggest clients was Harrison Industrial, my father's company. I didn't know it when I accepted the assignment. When I saw the company name on the project file, I froze. Harrison Industrial. The same company where my father had worked for 28 years. The same company where my mother worked. The same company where Jason had recently been hired. Even Lauren had joined their marketing department. My entire family worked there. And now they were about to become my clients. I almost asked to be removed from the project. Then I thought about my father's words. You'll never amount to anything. I decided to stay. Not to prove him wrong. At least that's what I told myself. The project lasted 6 months. I was assigned to analyze Harrison Industrial's manufacturing network. The numbers were alarming. The company was losing millions through outdated inventory systems. Warehouses were overstocked. Suppliers were poorly managed. Several contracts were overpriced. Production schedules were inefficient. And there was a bigger problem. Someone was hiding the losses. When I presented my findings to the consulting team, my manager stared at me. How sure are you? Extremely. This isn't a minor issue. I know. This could put the entire company at risk. I know. He leaned back. Are you sure you're ready to present this? I nodded. Yes. The presentation was scheduled for Monday. I arrived early. The conference room filled with executives. Then my family walked in. My father saw me. His expression changed. Emily? I stood. Hi, Dad. My mother stared. Jason looked uncomfortable. Lauren whispered, What is she doing here? I didn't answer. The CEO walked in. Everyone, this is Emily Parker. She's the lead analyst on the project. My father looked at me like I had suddenly become someone he didn't recognize. The CEO continued, She has identified several major operational problems. I started the presentation. For 45 minutes, I walked them through the numbers. Inventory waste, supplier fraud, production inefficiencies, overpriced contracts, financial exposure. The room became increasingly quiet. When I finished, the CEO looked at me. How much can we save if your recommendations are implemented? I answered. Approximately $18 million annually. Silence. My father stared at the screen. Jason looked at the floor. The CEO smiled. Excellent work. After the meeting, my father followed me into the hallway. You've been working against us? I turned. No. You could have told me. You never asked. He looked angry. I'm your father. And I'm a professional consultant. You're enjoying this. I shook my head. No. You think you're better than us now? I looked at him. No, Dad. Then why do you look so satisfied? Because I finally found something I'm good at. He didn't respond. I walked away. That should have been the end. But it wasn't. Because my recommendations uncovered something much bigger. A network of questionable contracts had been approved over several years. Several suppliers were connected to a private investment group. That group had ties to Harrison Industrial's CFO. Millions of dollars were disappearing. The board launched an investigation. The CFO resigned. Several executives were fired. My father wasn't involved. Neither was my mother. But Jason had signed off on some purchasing reports. He wasn't fired. Yet, he called me. You ruined everything. I stared at the phone. I exposed financial problems. You knew what would happen. I didn't cause them. You're enjoying watching us suffer. No. You always hated this family. I hung up. A week later, my mother called. You need to stop. Stop what? This investigation. I don't control it. You know people. Mom, I don't. You could tell them that you made a mistake. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You want me to lie? I want you to protect your family. I closed my eyes. Where was that protection when Dad threw me out? Silence, she whispered. That was different. No, it was a long time ago. It was 6 years ago. I know. I took a breath. I've spent 6 years trying to prove I wasn't worthless. My mother started crying. And now you are? I answered quietly. I don't need to prove anything anymore. I ended the call. The next year changed everything. My consulting firm grew. I became a partner. Then Harrison Industrial's CEO retired. The board began looking for new leadership. The company was struggling. The investigation had damaged its reputation. Investors were nervous. Employees were leaving. The board needed someone who understood the problems, someone who could restructure the company, someone who could save it. The consulting firm submitted a proposal. I was part of the team. During one board meeting, a director asked me, "If you were running this company, what would you do?" I answered honestly. I would stop trying to preserve what isn't working. He nodded. What would you change? Everything. 3 months later, I received an unexpected phone call. The chairman wanted to meet me. I went. He offered me the position of chief operating officer. I accepted. My father was furious. You're working for them now? Yes. You don't understand what you're doing. I understand exactly. You're going to destroy the company. No. I looked at him. I'm going to save it. He laughed. You think you can do what experienced executives couldn't? I already did. He went silent. Over the next 2 years, I rebuilt Harrison Industrial. We modernized the factories, renegotiated supplier contracts, implemented new technology, reduced waste, invested in employees. We stopped hiding problems. We fixed them. The company returned to profitability. Then something happened that nobody expected. A major competitor made an offer to buy Harrison Industrial. The board considered it. The price was enormous. But the chairman asked me, "What do you think?" I looked at the proposal. I think we can build more value ourselves. Can we? Yes. How? We need ownership aligned with the people who actually care about the company. He smiled. You sound like you want to buy it. I laughed. I couldn't afford it. He looked at me. Could you? I didn't answer. Because the truth was, over the previous years, I had built wealth. I had invested carefully. I had founded a technology company with 2 former colleagues. That company had developed software that Harrison Industrial used. We had recently been acquired. I had money. A lot more than my family knew. The chairman made an offer. Not for me to buy the company alone. For an investment group I led to acquire it. I spent weeks negotiating. Then one Friday morning, the deal was finalized. I became the majority owner of Harrison Industrial, the company my father had spent 28 years serving, the company my mother worked for, the company Jason and Lauren relied on for their salaries. I didn't tell my family. They found out from the announcement. Monday morning, I walked into headquarters. The lobby was packed. Employees were gathering. The CEO stood beside me. Behind us was a giant screen. Welcome to the next chapter of Harrison Industrial. Then the CEO said, Please welcome our new majority owner and chairwoman. He paused. Emily Parker. My father was standing near the back. His face went completely white. My mother covered her mouth. Jason froze. Lauren stared at me. I walked toward them. My father whispered, You bought this company? I nodded. He looked around. Why? Because it was worth saving. He shook his head. I don't understand. I know. Then he said the words I had been waiting 6 years to hear. I was wrong. I looked at him. He was crying. My God, Emily. He took a step toward me. I was so wrong. I didn't know what to say. So I said, I know. My mother hugged me. I let her. Jason stood behind her. He looked ashamed. I owe you an apology. Yes? I treated you terribly. Yes? He swallowed. I thought you were going nowhere. I know. I was wrong. Yes? He laughed sadly. You're not making this easy. I looked at him. You spent years making it difficult. He nodded. I deserved that. Lauren approached next. She was crying. I miss my sister. I looked at her. I miss mine too. She hugged me. And for a moment, I felt like that little girl again, the one who had shared secrets with her siblings. But then I remembered something. Forgiveness doesn't mean pretending nothing happened. So I stepped back. I want us to have a relationship. Lauren nodded. But it has to be different. I understand. My father was still standing there. I looked at him. You told me not to come back until I became someone you could be proud of. He nodded. I remember. Well, I looked around the lobby. I came back. He smiled through his tears. I see that. But Dad, he looked at me. I didn't become successful because I wanted you to be proud of me. His smile faded. I became successful because I finally stopped believing you when you told me. I couldn't. My father nodded slowly. You're right. Then he said something I never expected. I owe you more than an apology. You don't owe me money. I know. Then what? He looked at me. My respect. I smiled. That would be enough. I kept my promise to the employees. I didn't clean house just because my family had once worked there. I didn't fire my parents. I didn't fire Jason. I didn't fire Lauren. That would have been revenge. Instead, I evaluated everyone based on performance. My mother stayed in HR until retirement. Lauren moved into a different department where she thrived. Jason struggled at first. He had spent years believing his last name would protect him. Now he had to prove himself. Eventually he did. Not because I gave him special treatment. Because he worked for it. My father retired 6 months later. Before his retirement party, he asked me to meet him privately. We sat in his old office. The same office where he had once told me I would never amount to anything. He looked around. I remember throwing you out. So do I. I think about it every day. I didn't answer. I thought I was teaching you a lesson. You were. He looked surprised. What lesson? I smiled sadly. That I didn't need your approval to become someone. His eyes filled with tears. I wish I could take it back. So do I. He looked down. I failed you. I shook my head. You made a mistake. No. He looked at me. I failed you. I reached across the desk. Then don't fail me now. What do you mean? Be my father. He started crying. And so did I. We hugged. It wasn't magical. It didn't erase the past, but it was real. And sometimes real is better than perfect. My father died 3 years later. Before he died, he left me a letter. I didn't open it until after the funeral. It said, Emily, when you were young, I thought strength meant never needing help. I thought success meant money, titles, and power. I was wrong. The strongest person in our family was always you. I just didn't have the wisdom to see it. When I told you that you would never amount to anything, I was really telling you about my own fears. You were never worthless. You were simply different from what I expected. And I was too blind to understand that different can become extraordinary. I'm proud of you. But more importantly, I hope you're proud of yourself. Love, Dad. I read the letter 3 times. Then I cried. Not because I finally got the words I had wanted as a child, but because I realized I no longer needed them. I had already become proud of myself. Long before my father apologized. Long before I bought the company. Long before anyone noticed. I had learned to value myself. And that was the real victory. Today, Harrison Industrial is still operating. It has thousands of employees across several states. We have expanded internationally. We invest heavily in employee development. And every year, we give scholarships to students from families who can't afford college. I created the scholarship in my father's name. Some people asked why. Why honor a man who had once disowned me? Because I didn't want his worst mistake to become his entire legacy. My father was flawed, but he learned. And sometimes the greatest measure of a person isn't whether they make mistakes. It's whether they have the courage to admit them. My family isn't perfect now. We still argue. We still disagree. But we talk. We listen. And we don't measure one another by salaries anymore. My mother retired. Lauren has 2 children. Jason runs a regional division. And every Thanksgiving we gather at my house. The same house where I live now. A home I bought with money I earned. A home nobody can take away from me. One Thanksgiving evening, Jason looked around the table and laughed. Do you ever think about that night? I knew exactly what he meant. The night they threw me out. I smiled. Sometimes. My mother looked down. I wish we hadn't done it. My father was gone by then. His chair sat empty. I looked at it. Dad regretted it too. Jason nodded. Then Lauren asked, Do you ever wonder what would have happened if they hadn't disowned you? I thought about it. Maybe I would have stayed comfortable. Maybe I would have continued seeking approval. Maybe I would never have pushed myself. Maybe I would still believe my worth depended on what other people thought. So I smiled. No. They looked at me. I don't regret becoming the person I am. The room became quiet. Then I raised my glass. To new beginnings. Everyone raised theirs. To new beginnings. And I thought about that cardboard box on the porch. The photographs. The diploma. The old watch. The words. You'll never amount to anything. My father had been wrong. But here's the part that took me years to understand. I didn't prove him wrong by becoming rich. I didn't prove him wrong by buying his company. I didn't prove him wrong by becoming successful. I proved him wrong the moment I picked up that box, walked away, and decided that his opinion would no longer determine my future. The company was just the final chapter. The real victory happened much earlier. It happened when I stopped asking, What do I need to do to make them proud of me? And started asking, What kind of person do I want to become? That question changed everything. If you're watching this because someone has called you worthless, remember something. People can misunderstand you. They can underestimate you. They can reject you. They can even walk away from you. But none of those things determine your value. Sometimes the people closest to you see only the version of you they expect. They don't see what you're capable of becoming. And sometimes being pushed out of the life you know is the painful beginning of the life you were supposed to build. I thought my family disowned me because I wasn't good enough. Years later, I realized something completely different. They didn't disown me because I was worthless. They disowned me because they couldn't see my worth. And there is a difference. One is a sentence. The other is someone else's blindness. I spent 6 years believing I had to prove myself. Then I spent the rest of my life learning that I never had to. The little girl who took apart that broken toaster wasn't wasting her time. She was learning. The young woman who analyzed numbers while everyone else laughed wasn't boring. She was building a skill. The daughter who walked away carrying a cardboard box wasn't worthless. She was becoming independent. And the woman who eventually bought the company her family worked for? She wasn't getting revenge. She was finally living without asking permission. So if someone has ever made you feel small, don't spend your life trying to make them regret it. Build, learn, grow, heal. Become so secure in who you are that their opinion no longer controls your emotions. Because the best response to being told, you will never amount to anything, isn't revenge. It's becoming so comfortable with your own worth that you don't need anyone else to announce it. My family once told me I wasn't worth anything. Then they watched me buy the company they all worked for. But the most important thing I bought that day wasn't a company. It was freedom. And I would choose that freedom over their approval every single time.